Hello, this is group number 24, and this is the walkthrough for our final project. So, as you know from our proposal, we made a calendar application called timewise aimed at towards improving user productivity, and we offer unique features that hopefully will streamline event planning, task management, and record keeping. So a little bit of quick information on why we created it. You might be familiar with the Canvas calendar, and we felt that the options available there were pretty lacking, so we decided to create this calendar application where there's just more options available and those options are easily accessible. So basically we just wanted to improve the experience for students and professors who have dealt with the shortcomings of Canvas, but also at the same time wanted to make it applicable to professionals and everyday users. So a little information on how we created it. Some of the front end things that we use were CSS, HTML, JavaScript, handlebars, Bootstrap. The middleware includes Express and Node.js. We used MongoDB as our database and some outside code. We used a tiny MC editor. Rich text editor were used for one of our features, which are notes. We used a node cron, which so we used it to schedule things that run in a specific time interval, and it'll scan the database. Whenever a certain time passes, we needed to update the entire database to ensure that everything that has passed a certain time is marked as such, and things that haven't reached a certain time are untouched. The architectural design, we have a database with the following collections. The middleware is in charge of fetching and processing, and the front end in charge of displaying and receiving input. So moving on to the demonstration, we'll start with signing up. So if we click get started, you'll be prompted to log in, but obviously we need to make an account first. So we'll register. Maya will just make some simple sample inputs. We have these validations for this page. So for initially, we have for each field, but some of the important ones would be you're not allowed to make an email or make an account with an email that's already in use. So I'll demonstrate that after I create this account. And passwords have some certain requirements. And another key validation is the date of birth. Here it kind of says, but you need to be at age 13 or older in order to register. And finally, since we are storing your data, we require that the user consents so that they are well aware of the data that we're collecting. So I'll just put a random date here for that. And so when you sign up, you're going to be automatically logged in, and so new users and the first time you logged in, you're going to be presented with this summary pop-up. This is a one-time notification that's given whenever a user first logs in, and it gives them the information regarding all events for that current day. This basically allows the user to be provided of their current tasks at the start of their day. And if you miss this notification for some reason, you can always click this bell to revisit that. So I'm just going to log out again so I can demonstrate logging in and demonstrate signing up with an email that's already in use. So if I try re-registering with the same email that I used before. You can see that it tells me that email is already in use. But since I already have an account, I'm just going to log in. Yep, you can see the login works. So now let's get into more so of the actual calendar application itself. So for new users, they can consult this. We have this calendar helper on the side here. Basically tells you what the calendar does and how to use it. So we have, I'm going to get to all these points essentially, but the month view shows the events per day, and you'll see when I add events, some of the washed out ones will mean that those items have passed already. Items that are struck out mean they're completed. You can add new events by clicking this add event button, and you can filter things, you can drag and drop. I'm going to touch on all of these in a moment. So let's start with just showing you the different views that we have. So the user can choose to view the calendar by month, by week, or by day, depending on their needs. And if you click on a small cell on the monthly view, it'll bring you straight to the daily view for that day. Clicking on the big squares on the larger calendar, or on the smaller one on the left side here will show you events for that day, but we don't have any events at the moment. We can also cycle through, if we cycle through the months or the years, and we click back to today, it'll bring us back to the month and the day that we were looking at before. So let's move to adding some of the events here. So on the top right is where you would add the event. So there are 4 different events available for use in this application, and it's important to state that duplicate events are allowed. It's not an error here, but you are allowed to add duplicate events. So let's start with adding some reminders. So when you click that, you have to click the pencil to start creating one. So we'll just make a test reminder. So titles for reminders are required, and descriptions and tags for reminders are optional, but I'll just fill them out anyway. And so these tags are important because they come into play when filtering, and we'll get to filtering in a little while. So I'm just going to add a tag. Let's make it test reminder. And so these are priorities where the user can select how important a task is. And you can also, those come into play with the right hand side here. And so we'll just add this to Wednesday. So with reminders and meetings, there is the option to have the event is repeating. So if we click that, the user can select the increment at which they would like this event to repeat. So if I wanted to repeat daily or weekly or monthly or even every year, I have the availability to do so. So we'll just demonstrate it by repeating this one weekly. And then the last date of occurrence is the last day you want this meeting to repeat. So I'm just going to put it as the 25th. So we'll see that the reminder is created and it's repeating up until the end time, which is 25th. But since we didn't have, this wasn't scheduled for the 11th, it doesn't appear on the 25th. So we can do the same for meetings. Meetings, the title is required. Description tags are also optional here. Priority is the same as before. The difference here in the meetings is that you need to make sure the meeting is within the same day. I mean, in these two fields need to be within the same day, and otherwise it's not going to let you schedule the meeting. So if I just make a meeting for tomorrow at 1 p.m., this one has to be the same day. And we can do the same thing with the repeating events here for meetings, similarly to how tasks were repeating. However, this one has a little bit of a difference. So we can select the increments. It's the same as tasks, so we'll do the same as weekly. But this one, instead of selecting an end date, we'll just put the amount of times we want it to repeat. You can see it repeats 3 times. Moving on to tasks. These are, adding events is pretty similar, pretty straightforward. Give it a title, description, tags. Priority is the same as before, and these ones don't recur, so we'll just add any date here. And this is where you can mark them. I mean, this is an option to mark them as completed, I suppose, if you add them into past states. But here, if you click on tasks, you can see on the left pane here, you can check them, and adding tasks will update this right side pane here. Tasks need to be manually marked as completed, and they can be marked, you can mark them again to mark them as incomplete. And every time you update one of these, it'll update on the right side as well. The entire page will update. The progress bar will fill up depending on the action you take, and you can see that this little pill will become a strike through. So if I mark it incomplete, it'll get rid of the bar. So you can see that adding events into the future will add them to the right pane here in upcoming items. And if I add a task, so if there's tasks or meetings that are past the due date, they'll be added to the backlog. And creating a meeting. So if we go to creating meetings and tasks without a date, that'll lead us to the drag drop functionality of the application, which is a key feature. So if I create a meeting or a task, I'll create a task. So if I don't add a date to this one and save changes, you can see that it appears in this unassigned tasks section of the right-hand side. If a user wishes to add an event without a date, perhaps maybe save it for later until a date is confirmed, it will be added here. And then users can take this and drag and drop it directly into a date and time to be added to that event. So there are a few different interactions with dragging and dropping with respect to the different views that I showed before. So if I create just some extra throwaway tasks, continuously not give these dates to add them into the unassigned tasks. So to demonstrate the differences here, if I take this task and I drag it into the month, this will automatically slot the task into 12 a.m. However, if I were to slot them into, if I were to drag and drop these into the week view or the day view, these would, you could drop these into any time that you want. So for example, if I want the week task, I can drop it at 2 a.m. I can actually specify the times at which I want to drop these in. And similarly with the day, if I go to a different day, I can take these unassigned tasks and I can drop them at a certain time, and then that will automatically assign the time to that event. So moving events that are already assigned a time using this drag and drop functionality will cause the scheduled date and time to change relative to where the user places it. For example, if I had a meeting that runs from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock and I move it to 7 o'clock, it'll automatically become 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. However, if you drop it at times such as like 11:30 p.m. For meetings that are like an hour long, these meetings are capped at 11:59. And if an unassigned meeting is drag and dropped into the month view, the default duration is 30 minutes. So now we can move on to adding notes. So similar to everything else, notes, the titles are required. And the feature that we have with notes are you can the ability to add PDF and images. So you can upload into this description area, you can upload only text, only images, or a combination of both. And the stuff that you store here, they're stored server side, so only you can access them. So I'll demonstrate adding an image. So I have some pictures here. So you can add multiple images as well. You don't just need one. So here's a couple images. If you want to replace the image, you just make sure it's like highlighted. And then you do the same process. And then it'll replace that image. And just hit delete and we'll get rid of them. You can also add PDFs. If you insert link, you can click a PDF. This is our proposal. And it'll add a link to a PDF. So I will actually just add one with some images. Put some text. I'll add a tag. And so notes, dates are required. So I'll add a date. So now we can move on to, since we have a bunch of different tasks and notes now, we can move on to filtering. So on the top right here, we can select filter options. We can filter by event types, which are automatically set as the 4 different event types that we have, or as the tags that are set during event creation, as you saw. Just in case you forgot, if you create one, there's a tag field here for each event. So you can filter by those. So if I want to just see my notes, you click submit, you'll only see the notes. If I want to filter by my meetings and my tasks, you click submit, it'll only show my meetings and my tasks. And if I want to see just by my tags, test meeting, for example, we'll just show that. Then I can just get rid of that and everything will come back. So now a little bit more so for the right side, the right pane of our application. This right side within these accordions will include the top next 50 items for the calendar month in order of date, and then is organized in priority. So you can see here that these are just the upcoming items of the things that we have going on, and then I briefly explained the progress bars before. So if you want to get more into these event functions, I can demonstrate deleting the event. So if I want to delete something, I can click here on the left, and I can click this trash can. And so since this is an event that's in sequence, it'll prompt me to if I want to delete one event or delete all the events. So since I have two different events here in sequence, I'll demonstrate first this deleting this event, just one of them. So you can see that this one was deleted, but these two were preserved. So then if I click the reminder, which is also a sequence, and I click delete all events, it'll delete all of them from the entire sequence. And so that warning that you get, or not that warning, that I suppose this prompt that you get is only possible if this event is part of a series. So just to reiterate, I'll delete all events again. And now for some further user functionality, I'll demonstrate some of the user profile things that we have available. So if you click here, you actually get, this is a pane that shows some different other features that we have, but we'll really quickly view the profile. This will give the user just their basic user information. This is where the user can change their password and edit the profile. So if you change the password, you need to enter your current password, your new password, then re-enter your old password or your new password. So the current password obviously has to match your current password. The new password follows the same restrictions as when you sign up. And this one has to match the new password, otherwise it'll throw an error. So it's not matching because I put I guess the demonstration put a bunch of extra characters, so you see that these are truly different. Then if I match them up, change password, after some time, we'll say password change successful, and then it'll bring us back here. Additionally, in the profile, we can edit the profile. We can give ourselves a new name, change our date of birth. All of these have the same restrictions as when you're signing up. This can't just be white space, and has to be can't start with a number. Date, you have to be older than 13 or 13 or above. So I'll just go and put another name back. So instead of test, I'll make it sample user. Click save changes. So say edit successful. That'll bring us back here. So you can see that the first name is updated. But also, if I want to delete all events, I can click this button, and the user will be prompted, are you sure you want to delete all events? This actually cannot be done. And click OK. All events deleted. So if I go back to the calendar, you'll see that all the events are indeed gone. From here, all the logs are empty. So another function that is available for the user profile is to delete the user. So you click delete profile, it'll be prompted again, you sure you want to delete? Click OK. You will now be logged out. then you're prompted to please log back in. So I also wanted to briefly touch upon cron, our use of cron, which is used for our keeping time and tracking our events with that. So I just want to going to log in really quickly with a sample user that I've seeded. I'm going to create multiple events here in the day view, just to show you that. So in cron, by default we have it as 10, but for demonstration purposes I'm going to make it 1. And so since I did that, I have to log in again. So I'm going to relaunch the server, log in again. And add some events. So if I go to the day view actually, and I add a reminder, make it test 1, test, priority doesn't matter. So I'm gonna make it a minute from now. And save changes. Add another event, add a meeting, test2, test, doesn't matter really. Add this event to today, minute from now. Changes. Add a task. Test3. Test. Minute from now. And so basically what happens when you'll see here that it says events updated as of a certain time. So that's each time cron will run through this scheduled cycle. You see it just did it. So if I were to refresh the page, you can see now that it has passed the time that it was that these events were set for. And so they have become washed out, as we said before. And these ones, this reminder, since it's past the time, has been crossed out.